Well, hello and welcome to Lord of the Board. My name is Sam Smith, and today we are going to be doing some of my top releases of 2020. Now, this year has been one heck of a year. It's honestly felt like 3 years in one. Like, I feel like the beginning of January was so far away from now. I really wanted to go over some of these games that really impacted me this year, games that I really enjoyed, and I'm trying to stick as closely to games that were actually released in 2020. There will be some expansions in this list, so hopefully that, doesn't make anybody mad. I just, really enjoyed a couple of expansions this year as well. Now, I am going to try and be as clear and concise as possible, trying to discuss these games no longer than 1 minute. That way this video will only be around the 10 to 11 minute mark. So with that, let's go ahead and start the list. Now, my 10th pick is going to be Dungeon Mayhem Monster Madness. Now, if you don't know what Dungeon Mayhem is, it's a really quick card battler game where you're just trying to defeat all of the other opponents. This is set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, and this particular set came with 6 new monsters to add to your collection of 6 heroes. That way you can have a ton of replayability. Now, you can just get this box and play with just these 6 and play over and over again, or you can get the others in the series, but this one was released this year and absolutely has some really cool abilities, some really fun things that they actually added to the game, more party dynamics like speaking like the creature and saying certain things in order to activate abilities. I love this game as a filler game, and sometimes we even use it to determine who goes first in the game that we have at the table. Now, the next game on my list is one that really surprised me, and that is Pendulum by Stonemaier Games. This game genuinely gave me an adrenaline rush after I was done playing, and we played it multiple times and I absolutely loved it. It is a real-time worker placement game, so you're going to be going around trying to place your workers at these locations, gathering up resources and going down these different tracks, trying to be the most efficient with your time, and not necessarily the player that is fastest will win. I've found that the player that plans and plots what they are going to do is going to win, and that is what I love most about this. That, on top of the fact that the artwork is absolutely stunning, and I would definitely recommend people just give it a try. It is a very unique, fun and thrilling experience. Now, my 8th pick is going to be Mysterium Park, and I just got this game for Christmas and I've already played it 3 times, and this game is so good. It takes Mysterium, which is a game where one player is trying to direct all of these other players, you're all working as a team, basically to lead the players through deduction as to who killed them. And Mysterium Park is a simplified version. It's easier to set up, it's easier to play, and easier to teach. I still love the original Mysterium, and it will definitely stay in the collection, but Mysterium Park is just so convenient if you just want to pull something out really quickly and get it to the table. As well as it's given a lot of other people the opportunity to play the ghost, as there's just not as much rules when that player is running as the ghost. So really great game. Definitely check it out, Mysterium Park. Now, this board game might be the most controversial one on the list, and that's just because it's technically a 2019 release, and also it's a reprint. But who cares? I got PAX Premier 2nd edition in 2020, so I am putting it on this list, and I am so glad that I played this game because it is exquisite. First off, this is by Cole Wehrle, who is the one who designed Root, my all-time favorite game. But second of all, this game is so good. It is so interesting. I'm very glad that I actually played a PAX game, because PAX games are where there's all these different armies and players can take control of them and switch allegiances with them throughout the game, so no player is really stuck to a certain army. And that whole dynamic of not knowing when your opponent is going to switch allegiances or when you yourself are going to is so good. That, on top of the fact that the components are out of this world. It is a beautiful production. Now, flying in at number 6 on my list is Wingspan, the Oceania expansion. This is Beautiful. Great expansion. It adds a different resource. It changes up the player boards. This makes the game interesting. It makes it more helpful to teach for newer players. I think it's a great addition to the game, and I don't think I'll be going back to the regular board. Giving the option to actually reshuffle the cards that are out for all the players to draw, and also giving the option to re-roll the bird feeder integrated within the board is an amazing addition. And having that extra resource that can count as any other resource helps a lot and makes the game really interesting because you're able to build your engine a lot sooner. Oceania expansion was an essential buy, and to me, if you love Wingspan, you are going to absolutely adore this one. And now we have got number 5, which this has a near and dear place in my heart. I've got both versions. I've got the Target exclusive version of Perfectly Wretched, and I've got the regular version of the game. I was actually given the honor to write a strategy article for this game, and this is just awesome. I absolutely love the Villainous series. This one came with Mother Gothel, one of my favorite villains of all time, Cruella de Vil, who is wonderful, and Pete. And all of them introduced some new mechanics to the game that were very interesting and very thrilling to play as. I actually loved all 3 characters, and they all really work well together as well. This one is just a great game, and this is definitely one of those games that I would just advise anybody to grab. This game has found so much table presence in my home, and I am so thankful that it is in my collection. It will never leave. This is absolutely great. This is Villainous Perfectly Wretched by Ravensburger. Check it out. Now, writing in at number 4 on my list is going to be Viscounts of the West Kingdom, and I think the most interesting thing about this game, one, is that it still manages to be impressive even though it's the 3rd in a series of great games, the West Kingdom series. But in addition to that, the system of deck building, and it's kind of like a conveyor belt deck building style where you're placing a card and it moves over, and depending on when it drops off, it can have an effect before it goes to the discard pile. And this mechanic really makes you think about your cards' turns ahead, but as well as when you're placing them onto your conveyor belt, so to speak. Just that, as well as with the rondel board, those 2 mechanics have created something beautiful here. I truly advise giving this game a try. I like it better than Architects. I have not played Paladins yet, but I'm excited to see how it stands up against it. Now we are getting into my top 3, and this was almost unmatched Cobble and Fog until this box came out before the end of the year, and that is unmatched Little Red Riding Hood versus Beowulf. This one passed Cobble and Fog for me. This is my favorite set of Unmatched so far. I adore both of these characters. If you haven't played an Unmatched game, it's basically an all-out brawl between, it could be 1v1 or 2v2, and you're basically just trying to use your deck to the best of your ability, attempting to outwit and outsmart and outpower your opponent, defeating them in battle first. And you can have legends coming from all different stories, movies, fiction, and they battle it out. This is my favorite set so far because to me it takes a step further in the complexity of the characters, even more so than I thought that they would attempt to do, and I absolutely adore both of them. So my number 3 pick, Little Red Riding Hood versus Beowulf by Restoration Games. Now, my number 2 pick is going to be Root the Underworld expansion. It's really hard to believe that this was actually released this year. This year has felt so long, but Root is my favorite game of all time, as you guys probably know, and this expansion has been played so many times throughout the year. I absolutely adore both of the new factions that were introduced, the Underground Duchy and the Corvid Conspiracy, and I have taught a lot of people Root, and these 2 factions have made their way so warmingly in my home and within my friends. It is a wonderful expansion that adds some new things to the game that are welcomed. I love both these factions, and I think that this game has probably gotten the most plays out of everything else that I've shown so far. The only reason it is not number 1 one would be because it is an expansion and not a game in and of itself. So you'd have to have Root in order to play this, but I would definitely advise buying Root and then buying this expansion first. So that is my second pick, Root, the Underworld expansion. And finally, the moment that you have been waiting for, or the moment that you skipped to if you cheated, we've got Dune Imperium at my number one game of the year. I absolutely love this game. This is a deck building worker placement game, and in my opinion, out of all the other games that tried to do this year, Dune Imperium was my favorite one. This game, the deck building feels really crunchy. You have to know what cards you're putting in your deck in order to win. Those cards will matter a lot and they will come back. The whole conflict system where you can actually pull your troops last minute and trick your opponents into wasting good hard-earned warriors. I mean, the conflict and intensity of this game really feels like the Dune theme, but even if you've never watched or read Dune, this game, it really speaks for itself. I completely recommend going out, buying this game, and playing it. You will have a blast. And if you haven't checked out my strategy series for it, I released a whole 4 set of videos for all of the different houses in the game. So definitely check those out. But with that, guys, that is it for my top 10 releases of 2020. I know it has been a crazy year, but I really hope that this list was a break in the craziness for you today. But what are some of the games that you have enjoyed in 2020? Some of your favorite releases? Comment down below your favorite game of 2020 and we'll have a conversation about it. But that is it for my top 10 list. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, let's go ahead and drop the beat.